So, Chen, I can see that you're only 45 years old because you started working with early childhood education as 5 years, right? Okay, next we have Vivek. So, Vivek has been in corporate career spanning over 4 decades, of which the last 24 years in large diversified companies in India and the Gulf. He completed his engineering degree from the prestigious IIT Kanpur and an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. Besides, he did strategic planning at Boston College, US, corporate management at AOTS, Japan, and is a Six Sigma Green Belt certified from Motorola University. His areas of expertise include business strategy, leadership practice, and as a business coach for senior and high potential exclusive. He is concurrently serving as professor of practice at the prestigious International Management Institute, IMI. Welcome, Vivek. Then we have Puven. And Puven, I hope I say your last name correctly now. I'll do my best here. Puven Nalatambi is the Vice President of Group HR at Taylor's Education Group, responsible for the strategy, direction, organization vision, and talent strategy. She is a senior professional of 25 years of working and 15 years in human resource, covering all HR functions areas. She is a strategist, adapt to create and execute HR initiatives that are closely aligned with the organization, mission, and vision. Welcome, Puven. Then we have Dr. Iris Garner. She is the CEO of the firm ILG. She's worked across the education area, including corporations and non-for-profit space, for more than 2 decades. Garner leverages transformation leadership practice and diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging constructs to advance community engagement, program development, evolution, as well as corporate development and strategic planning. Dr. Garner inspires, builds, and transforms to ensure impact on all stakeholders. Welcome, Garner.
Thank you.
So, by kicking this off, this panel, the first question, where do I go here? Marybelle. So the first question, Marybelle, why do we need transformation leadership with purpose, presence, and inclusion here?
Well, thank you for your question, Chen.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. As you can see, we are quite a diverse panel, and I love that. Some of us work with kids, with students, with the workforce, and yet this topic is relevant for each of us, and most probably also for each of you. And the question is why? Why transformational leadership? And you know, we live in a world of transformation, right? The situation of people around the world 15 years ago is quite different than it is today. We have some new geopolitical and environmental challenges, and we are surrounded by a lot of changes. And those changes push us to think and do things differently. So, for example, we have the aging workforce, right? In a few years, a lot of the workforce will be retiring, so how do we manage that? We have this new generation that comes and see and do things differently, and they also push us out of our comfort zone, so how do we manage that? We have disruptive technology, geopolitical instabilities, right? So with all of this, what do we do about it? Well, we need to transform. And to transform, I'm just trying to find the lead that I wanted to bring.
That's okay.
So
Take your time.
There is passion, purpose, and presence, right? And a lot of people talk about passion, but why? Because with this new generation that is asking us, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why are you doing what you're doing? Does it have sense? they will do this extra mile of this transformational journey if they understand why they are doing it, right? So the purpose needs to be clear, and when you have a clear purpose, then everyone will be ready to go this extra mile in this transformational journey. And then transformation is about also change, and change can be scary, right? So that's why you also need this passion, because when you're passionate, you're ready to go for this change. And you have a lot of people that are passionate about a topic, right? It can be environmental topics, gender topics, but is passion enough, right? If you have the purpose and you have the passion, is it enough? Well, I would say, unfortunately, most of the time, no. You also need to have the presence. And what does it mean to have the presence? Well, it's talk with the stakeholders, get out of your comfort zone, find solutions, right? So I think that's why I really like this diverse panel, because with each of us, with our different experience and background, we can contribute to that discussion. So, Puven, what's your view also on this topic, and why do you think it's relevant?
If I can add on it, I would say transformational leadership, it's a very beautiful journey, and combining the passion, present, and purpose is highly relevant in today's dynamic and ever-changing world. It's simply because it facilitates adaptability, drive engagement, promote innovation, promote growth and development among people and leaders. If I take examples on my personal experience, I would say like purpose, communicating clearly and consistently to my stakeholders, team, people surrounding me, what is the purpose. And present is always being there, being a good listener, exploring ideas together, and coming up with a common goal where everybody feels that there's a common purpose. And passion is all about encouraging the team, the people, to find their own interests, best of themselves at work. By doing this, what I achieve, high engagement, innovative solutions, and that creates a positive impact in the organization. That helps a lot to achieve the transformational leadership. Thanks.
Thank you, Puven. So, Christine, how does purpose, passion, and presence relate to transformational leadership?
I would like to start with presence. Presence is first to be present, okay? To be present in the moment, like here, okay? And presence also means being in the moment with who you are, what you believe, and what you stand for. So for me, you know, education transforms the world. Education makes the world a better one for all of us today, for children tomorrow, the adults tomorrow. Now, 30 years ago in Singapore, the situation for early childhood teachers was really, really bad. As you know, early childhood teachers, they build foundation in learning for our young children who will be our future. But they did not have any recognition. There was no opportunities for them to grow in their profession or develop. So that situation, me being present there 30 years ago, you know, speaks to me that something needs to be done. So with that, I developed the purpose of the passion which I developed in the present, that present situation 30 years ago. You know, what it calls out to me is what can we do? So you see, being present in that situation, okay, arouses passion. And passion grows purpose. You know, passion and purpose are actually interlinked, you know. When you have passion, then you see, oh, I'm so passionate about this situation, and then the action that I put my passion into become your purpose. And as you go on in action, that purpose becomes clearer, and it fuels your passion. But it all starts with being present in the moment with what you believe and who you are. Like, I respect all the early childhood teachers for the kind of work that they do. And because of that, you know, it fuels the passion and develops my purpose.
Thank you very much, Christine. That was very enlightening to hear. So, Vivek, how do you link this to ESG?
Firstly, I must respond to Christine. Great example of passion she has just demonstrated. You know, John, our moderator, I must say he's a very proactive person. We had 2 Zoom meetings prior to this, and yesterday we met over lunch also. So I think we feel as if we know each other since a long time. And thank you, John, for that initiative.
You're
so
welcome.
This is what struck me very strongly about Christine, about her zest and whatever she speaks with such force and passion. So that's a great example. Building on what you've been saying, you know, for me, passion is something which is full of energy, enthusiasm, and that one thing good about energy is, demonstrating energy, it is infectious. One of the great examples we've had since the last 3 days is our moderator, Rachel. Let's give her a big hand. What a classic example of energy and enthusiasm. She's brought the whole seminar to a higher level. So this is what transformational leadership is about, in her own way. And shifting a little bit from the paradigm, you know, I was thinking, actually, the world today is passing through an existential crisis with all the climate cataclysm that is happening and the social upheavals. Literally, we are fighting for our survival. A lot of cynics and skeptics say that maybe humankind has not done enough. They have done too less, too late. Although I am one of those optimistic kinds, because a lot of things have been happening, particularly in the last 4 or 5 years across the world, where the appreciation for ESG is transforming the world. And a lot of, not just the government, I would say the private corporates have been very, very proactive. And they are defining the corporate purpose. Purpose, as you know, it means the reason for existence. There is no dietary. So we are all now defining the ESG proposition, which is consistent and aligned with our other objectives. And I think that is transforming this world. That is what transformational leadership is at a more macro level. I can give you many examples. You know, a small thing, my son, he's a partner with Boston Consulting at Singapore. So and all these consulting companies have got different practices. You have the leadership practice, the strategy practice. So he is in the ESG practice domain. And he was mentioning to me that, firstly, he's taken that practice out of choice because he feels there is a purpose involved in that. It gives him a sense of purpose, and he's passionate about it. So he was mentioning that, you know, in BCG, the people who are in this vertical, the retention rate is double than what it is in the other verticals, number one. And number two, although they do not get that kind of bonuses, they are still more satisfied and more purpose-filled because the kind of work which they are doing. They feel that, you know, they are part of a process of transforming the society. And so therefore, when I think of transformational leadership, I think this macro paradigm is very, very important. So much of work is being given. And now the retention rate of this particular vertical in BCG is double. So if the average age is 4 years, in people who are in the ESG vertical are staying at double the time. So all these are metrics, measures which are proving that today people are looking for a purposeful assignment. That's where they find their purpose and their passion. I have worked for many companies where they have aligned, the ESG proposition has been aligned very well with their other objectives. I remember in Pizza Hut we had this Food for Hunger project, and throughout all our outlets we had put these donation boxes, and it was amazing the amount of money we could raise. But more significantly, during the period of the campaign, our sales had a double-digit increase. So it's no longer as if it's a charity or something one is doing. It is so well inbuilt into the whole corporate purpose. Similarly, you know, one very good example we all have here, a plant bottle by Al-Ain. I thought that was a great ESG initiative, 100% plant resources. And to recycle this bottle, they are saving on buying fresh plastic or plant. So therefore, they are reducing cost. What an amazing way to, mix the ESG along with your own corporate objectives. So these days, organizations with enlightened leadership are taking amazing steps to mingle the two together. I hope there is something in what I have said, John.
I loved it. Thank you very much, Vivek. I love that. I love that. So, Puven, what are the key challenges of overcoming transformation leadership?
Key challenges, I would like to put it in a very positive manner where we can look at it as an opportunity. Right? So if you look at opportunity, I would say the word change, just like what Marybelle has mentioned, it sounds very scary. It's okay. To me, I will always say it's okay for people to be scared, worried about, because it's a lot of uncertainty, and probably it's also disrupting their daily routines. So they don't see it, right? So as a leader, the communication is very important, to communicate clearly the change or the purpose, so they are aware, so they can see the impact, positive impact, negative impact, what are the risks that we have, how to mitigate the risk, drag them along to give input, making decisions, so that we can have the change can transform very well. Secondly, I have a long list of opportunity, but due to time, I'll just look at 4. So the second one would be more managing high expectation. Don't set unrealistic goal. So it's always about setting up realistic goal and also celebrating each milestones, achievement, recognition that motivates the journey of transformation. Thirdly, looking at trust. Trust is a very powerful word, and it's not easy. We can't gain the trust empowering people and also fostering relationship in a day. It can happen naturally based on understanding your leadership traits, values, and also I emphasize this a lot in my current organization. Leaders have a little human touch on the key touch points of people's life cycle. So each key touch points that's important to be more engaging, and that's where the trust can be developed. And lastly, I see that developing the leadership pipeline is very important. It's not about a single leader. So leaders, you play an important role to develop a more transformational leader by identifying the potential future talents, future leaders, how do you do it? You definitely need a strategic leadership in place. So leaders, be prepared to invest on cost, time, to prepare for coaching, mentoring, developing and training programs to develop or to cultivate the culture of transformation leadership. So Dr. Garner, do you have another view on this?
That was an exhaustive list, very dynamic and comprehensive. One thing that I will add is the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Very often, organizations deposit those constructs here and there, and the challenge is that it should not be afterthought. It should be fused in from end to end. And when we speak about diversity, really it is the diverse inclusion of ideas, constructs, and methodologies in a way that really embodies our differences. And when we speak about equity, it's a time deposit there. One would have to really be intentional and get to know and understand the leaders and the team so that they can offer up exactly what it is that they're needing. Here I want to lean in on the term equity. It is not at all giving individuals the same thing, rather it is giving the individuals exactly what they need. And then inclusion, I can't speak enough about inclusion. Metaphorically, the boardroom table, if you will, I would encourage you to dismantle the table so that you can reconfigure it so it's large and wide enough to have a seat at the table for every individual. It is really compelling to have a leadership model that embodies, supports, and elevates and celebrate the differences across the organization. That, to me, is true transformative leadership. And the challenge is not around not having those components or sprinkling those in. The challenge is not making those part of it from end to end, integrated in every single component of the leadership model. Thank you.
Very interesting, Garner, very interesting. Yeah, we're all individuals, right? And need to be treated as individuals all the way through, right? Yeah, good. So, Vivek, we talk about trust, and how can trust overcome some of these challenges we see in transformation leadership?
Yeah, John, I think this is a very powerful word, trust. One of the finest sentences I had read was, trust is the currency of living. I thought it says it all. And, you know, I've done a lot of work on this area, not in terms of just theory, but also practical implementation of how do one generate trust. Because at the end of it, it all boils down to credibility. That's another word for generating trust. So how does one become trustworthy, worthy of being trusted? And Stephen Covey in his 7 Habits, and more importantly in his seminal book, The 8th Habit, where he talks of from effectiveness to greatness. There he has talked a lot about this, and I thought that made a lot of sense, that to generate, to become trustworthy, we have to work on our character ethic, integrity, and as well as high competence. So it's a combination of both strong character ethics and high competence. Character, things like integrity, fairness, justice, equity, you know, things like openness, honesty. So, and remember, one thing I really like is that people do not judge us by our intent. They judge us by our actions and behavior. So we have to demonstrate these qualities to become a trustworthy person. And along with this, you should also have high competence, whether it is about your product knowledge, your industry knowledge, the whole gambit of EQ and the soft skills you possess. So a combination of character ethic and high competence is the one which generates trust. Then people will willingly follow you. So I was very intrigued by this, and in the last organization I worked for, I said we have to implement it. So having made it as a core shared value, we said that it should not just remain on a piece of paper, and we have to actually act and behave in a trustworthy manner. And one of the norms which I did was we decided together that if anyone is violating in his actions and behavior, he's not demonstrating character or competence, the other person has the right to let him know. And it is irrespective of the level in which you are in. So, and we actually practiced it, this mutuality of trust. Believe me, the way it grew, it was amazing. The speed of trust, the way we cut down on the response time. No, I want a written sanction. No, once you have the trust of the other person, he will not betray you. You're walking the talk, and you don't have a hidden agenda, and you don't have so this is what is the transformational leadership is about. It is, according to me, if one is to sum it out, the transformation leadership is a lot to do with credibility, I feel. Would you like to add to that, John? Because I know we're quite aligned on this point.
Oh yeah. I do believe a lot in the trust line, I would call it almost, the trust line between us and people. So maybe between me and Marybelle here, there's a trust line. I'm very visual, I can almost see that line between us. And between us, we have a very straight line. But with some people, I have maybe a curve on that line. So if I'm leading people, my responsibility is to straighten that line. So when there's a straight line, a strong line, a trust line, change go fast. I agree with you, Vivek, here on the speed of trust. Because many transformations takes a long time, because there's curves on those trust lines. But maybe sometimes we let down our people. Maybe we didn't show them the respect of listening to them, understanding their needs, or treating them as individuals, like you talked about, Dr. Garner here, about diversity, inclusion, and equity. So I think it's so important as leaders, we see that line. Because if that line is not straight, we are losing business. It takes a long time, right? So the speed of trust. And I think that's an important line to look at. No matter how you do that in a very practical way, but having a picture of it, because if people don't follow our instructions, we cannot work with them, right? So we need to open the door, working with the trust line, listening to them, understanding them. The more I understand them, I can come through with my real intention, and that is to achieve business through people, right? That's the whole job we're doing. So in that sense, either in schools, we can teach and enable them in the school systems, or as leaders in organizations, we need to work through our people to achieve those results. And truly, that comes through the trust line, I believe. So thank you, Vivek. I enjoyed our conversation this morning also. I really did.
Oh, very well articulated, I must say.
Thank you. Dr. Garner, how can we operationalize transformation leadership and truly create impact?
Thank you for that question. I think this is really a critical question that we should ponder, really intentional. One thing that I will say is what's foundational to embodying transformative leadership is, one, having a plan. And it's a big vision plan. Very often you hear terminology around 30, 60, 90 days. I'm not suggesting that we abandon that methodology. Rather, I'm suggesting that we expand it so that we have these small incremental steps that create a much larger vision. And secondly, tools. Every good carpenter has the right tools in their toolkit. And I wanted to challenge us here to start to identify the right tools, whether it's hardware, software, or best-in-class consultants. If you look around the room, there is a plethora of talent that sits right in this room that perhaps you can make contacts and then leverage their experiences and bring them into what we're calling your metaphoric toolkit. Those are two foundational, but what I really want us to lean into is the very last component, and it is keeping it about the people. There is no social change without people. So everything from end to end of what we do should hinge upon, connect to, elevate, celebrate, and inspire people. And I wanted to identify 3 transformative leaders, and while we may never agree completely on all of their ideologies, what we can agree on is that they left their mark. So when you think about the plan, I think of Henry Ford, the automobile, and making it economical for others to have. When you think about the toolkit, I think of Steve Jobs, where he brought the best in class together to revolutionize technology. And when I think about keeping it about the people, I think about MLK, where the civil rights leader, where it was always, it led him from town to town, from community to community, and it was about the people. So those 3 foundational steps, if you would start to create this mental map of how you can create a plan, abandon the small, the 30, 60, 90, and expand it so that it's a big vision. Harvest the right tools. Don't leave today without getting at least 5 contacts so that you can bring in diversity of thought. And then keep it about the people. That is the one thing that if it is to be successful and truly transformative, it has to be, the nucleus of it should be about people.
Thank you, Dr. Garner. Very insightful, thank you. Marybelle, would you like to add a comment to this topic?
Yes, and I fully relate when you mention it's a long journey, right? I like to see it as a marathon. Change is a marathon, and yet you have some people that are running really fast because they have an idea, they have this sense of urgency. But in reality, so it's not but, it's an and. In reality, it's a marathon. And you don't want to run just anywhere. You want to run to a specific goals, right? So that's the impact. What is the impact you want to have? That sometimes people forget along the way, right? Why did we start running, actually, and where do we really want to go? And you cannot go everywhere. You need to decide specific impacts. And maybe there are impacts along the way, but you have to have this clear vision. And then you don't want to run alone, right? You need to find some allies because, as we said, it's a marathon, so it's really exhausting. It's passion. It's fantastic journey, but it's also a challenging journey. And those people that will run with you, you have your close circle of people that are fully aligned with you. And I encourage also to mix it with people that are not so enthusiastic about the topic. Why? Because the earlier on you involve them in the discussion and in trying to find solution and what could be the alternative, the more robust your solution and the impact and the end result will be. Because as you were mentioning, I also liked it, to have a really diverse team. Diversity of ideas, diversity of tools, and sometimes even when you are skeptical and it's out of your comfort zone, for me usually that's a good sign, right? Because when you go through change, there are a lot of unknowns. So if you think you know it already all, you have the right tools, you have the right team, maybe let's challenge ourselves a little bit, because transformation is all about transforming things that have not exactly been done before. So yeah, I also relate to the trust, right? I think trust is very important because when you navigate in the unknown, you need to trust what you do. You need to trust the people that you do it with, even if you don't fully agree with them. That's fine. It's okay to disagree, and still, you can do this journey together.
Yeah, and I would say to that line, if we don't have the trust, anxiety level goes up. I get afraid of the change, right? If I get afraid, anxiety level goes up. That triggers defenses. And many organizations or children in school sit with defense on and are afraid of learning or speaking out. And in that line, the trust is so important, that there is trust that we can learn, we can be vulnerable, we can make mistakes, because that's not there. That room in that change is not present, it takes so longer time. So I really agree with you on that, Marybelle, that we have to be able to have that trust so we can dare to speak out, dare to say our mind. And when we say our mind, we get the facts on the table faster. So we can actually work with the real facts and make a transformation happen. Because many times people sit with the facts, holding back, right? And if leaders don't hear those facts, we cannot operate. So I think that line about how do we operate this, we need to listen. We really need to listen to our people, remove the isolation between the layers in the organization so we can truly make that change happen. In the end, it's all about individuals. It's about people. And under the skin, even though we are like under the skin, we are all individuals and need to be treated that way. So if we don't treat people with respect, they will not respect us in the organization also. So, I enjoyed this conversation so far. And we practiced these questions, and we talked about them, like you said, 2 or 3 times now. I would love to hear your questions from the audience. Wouldn't you hear that? Yes. Yeah. So.
Well, you're ready to go.
Yes.
We have a big amount of time. Great. Hands up. Come on, get your feet up. Come on up to the microphone. One person at a time. We got one over here. We'll give you a second. Give them a round of applause. Put your hands
Hey, Rachel. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. That was a lovely conversation. I do a lot of work in the leadership space with organizations, and I've always been working in this transformational leadership space. I have a fundamental question, and this question I throw it to everyone. I'd like to hear more from Vivek with his experience. You're talking about 3 Ps: purpose, presence, passion for transformational leadership. So when you read it, it looks like purpose, presence, and passion are input, and transformational leadership is an output. So my question to the panel is, as leaders, is our job to create an environment that helps people to transform, by which they find their purpose, presence, and passion? Or should we work on building their passion, finding their purpose, presence, by which they transform into better individuals? So which is the input, which is the output as per the panel? That's my question. Thank you so much.
Wow. A very interesting poser. See, I have looked at, I remember when I started my working career in the 70s, that time the definition of leadership was command and control, planning, execution, and control. And how over the years, the whole definition of leadership has changed into one of an enabler. How I as a leader can serve and support. In fact, Marybelle had talked about that servant leadership, I remember. So the whole paradigm shift in leadership has happened. And therefore, what Rajiv is talking about, creating this environment so that the transformation can take place. I think I would plumb more for that as a leader, we have to be more enablers rather than more directional to enable this transformation. Please add something to it.
Can you hear me? Yes. To add, who is a leader, right? What is this question? For me, everyone can be and is a leader, right? If you have a team, for example, each of them is also a leader for their colleagues, for their kids, for the organization. And that's, if you see it with that way, then you also enable everyone to take control on that transformation and to play a role in that. That's how I would see it.
Yeah, I really like the questions there. Yeah.
If I
Puven?
can add to it, there is no sequence of like purpose, present, or passion. It can be passion, presence, or purpose. So it's all about leaders being very agile. It is not having a structured leader, and this is how it has to be. Agile, for example, being with the kids. If you see the kids are able to share their passion, your people, your team, able to share their passion, then work towards what is present and purpose. Or sometimes you also see someone comes with a purpose, so works towards the passion and presence. So there's no sequence to this.
If we define, leadership as influence, right? Just one word, influence. Whatever we say, whatever we do, we influence the ones that we are in touch with. So each and every one of us is a leader. There's a leader in us. And we will influence those around us. Leadership to me is about influence. And then you transform others.
I'll just add one other thought to that. Every person on your team is in a different track. So what VIVEA may need, Marybelle may not need. So being aware and astute enough to understand the authentic nature of every individual deserves something different as for you being a leader.
I like those angles. So I can come with personal comment on purpose. So I worked a lot with my inner why. Why am I doing what I'm doing as an enabler? Because our job at BTP is enabling other people. So when I was in the school system, I am dyslexic, which actually gave me a challenge this morning here. You gave me, I had to read all your bios. Just throw me back to the school period, which I hated, to be honest. So in that sense, my transformation has been learning to live with that I am dyslexic. And helping leaders, help the employees not experience feeling stupid, I would say, bad about themselves. And that's my inner why when I go out and help leaders transform their companies, building trust in that learning environment there. So in that sense, when employees dare to be present, dare to be themselves, dare to live out their purpose, the organization shine in that way. But as long as leaders don't see that and don't understand that purpose and enable them, it's very difficult to move the organization. So I don't think you can say one or the other, one enables the other one. I think they go hand in hand, and I think that'll be my comment to it in that sense. But if you don't understand your own purpose, your own inner why, it's very difficult to help other people. So I know when I work with people, work with big organizations, I get my power from my inner purpose to help them. And I think that's where you need to find the power. It's inside the purpose. Cool. That was a very good question. You actually gave comments from all of us. Did that fit your question, or you're happy? Yeah, I see clapping. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So.
Next question, we got another question. I saw you come on up to the mic. I feel like everyone's gotten very comfortable with each other in this room, which is so wonderful. Please do introduce yourself if you haven't met everyone.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your very interesting discussions for us. So I'm Akihiro Oba from Chuo University, Japan. So I need your comment because still now, so I have a memory on cases. So please let me share the cases. So 10 years ago, so I had a student in another university. So and my course is in engineering that. So he is a master student, and whose the father and mother has a very big company for engineering and the incredible the lots of money. So, and so I had such kind of a student. So, but he talked about some very incredible planning of the engineering technologies. And so, as a master course, he wanted to develop such kind of technologies as a master course thesis. So, but however, so he had continued to talk about planning itself. So for months. So and at the final December, so we had a physical year system. So at the master course we finished March. So at the December, maybe the 3 or 4 months of the before the master final presentation. So still he talked about the planning. So so I suggested to him. So and I questioned him. So when will you start the development? So however, so before the final presentation. So I mean the 2 weeks straight before the final presentation. So he presented a very simple program and engineering program to me. So, but it's completely different what he wanted to develop and his planning. So However, so 2 weeks later, so he developed such kind of big engineering system. So
sorry? You lost me a little bit. I really don't understand the question.
Yeah, true.
Can I give you to
So you talked about the trust and transformation. So you mentioned about that. So still now, so I should doubt or not. So to him, so such kind of is very sad. However, sometimes, so I have such kind.
He's telling a story.
Okay.
What he's saying is this. Okay, he had a student. He had a big vision, engineering, right?
Yeah.
And he goes on and on and on. At the end, he has to submit his discourse, right? And it's a very simple, different problem. And he's confused because as a leader and he's a student, he's working on this big problem and he gets a simple solution. He's like, should I trust this guy? What should I do? How can I take your leadership to assist him in dealing with this situation? Is that correct?
Yeah, true. Yeah, correct. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I am an engineer, so I can resonate with you in your question.
Still now. So I'm confusing. So for such kind of situation, if you have some comments, so because you're big experiences for that.
Amazing. So, very good. So you guys understood.
No, I'll give you an example. I'm doing a lot of work with a German company known as SMS GmbH. They have a 100% subsidiary in India. So I'm working at the CXO level with them. So they are world leaders in making furnaces, for the steel industry, for example. And very high tech, typical German precision. So basically, as you all, to put it very, very simply, the ferrous oxide, the iron ore, is interacted with carbon black, with the result that you make iron out of it, and then the byproduct, unfortunately, is carbon dioxide, which goes up into the air, and that's the gas greenhouse emission, the climate problem we all know of rising temperature. So now, seeing the relevance of the whole thing in the changing world, they are now working very strongly in a totally new technology where instead of using carbon, they will now be using hydrogen, green hydrogen. So when that interacts with the iron ore, you still get your iron, but this time the byproduct is not carbon dioxide, but water. And they are spending millions of dollars in this new technology. So I think that's a great example of transformational leadership, having that strategic mindset. What the future will be 3 years from now, for which we have to work today. I hope this somehow answers your question.
Thank you, Vivek. And Marybelle?
Yeah, just a quick comment. I like what you share. Actually, it gives me the opportunity to say a few words on that. That sometimes on transformation, you have people that want to change the world and they work hard and they have discussions with a lot of people and then they come with a complex solution. And you know what? Sometimes what is successful is the one or few people that make it super easy and come with a solution, but that's the one that will have impact, because at the end it's not necessarily the effort you put in it, but the impact that you will get. So if you're able to find something that is super quick, that you will have the buy-in from the people, seems easy, easily understandable, go for it. So it's not necessarily the effort, but the impact. I would say that matters.
I totally agree, and that's also my experience looking at it. Having facilitated tons of conflict handling sessions where people don't follow leaders, helping the leaders to get the trust back. I've listened to many cases with a lot of facts in there, but where the possible actions are very simple, actually. Simple solutions like say sorry, give credit, more human side of it compared to everything else. So in the end, we are humans, and simple solutions many times is enough if we do it with trust and care, I think. Yeah. Cool. I think our time is up, right? Yeah.
Really
there's
quick.
One more question there. He's
Another
pushing
question?
it. Actually,
You
two
squeezed
questions.
in there?
This is a very important session, you know.
I know it's very important. I know, so I'm going to give you the chance to ask your question. Thank you. You're welcome.
It's a 30-second question. I remember my physics days. Impact is equal to force by area. So force means direction, force means momentum. However, in leadership, and as coaches, we coach leaders to say practice the pause. You are in a sense of direction, but sometimes you just need to be practicing the pause, taking a step backward, and just redefine the purpose and presence. And that's what happened in the COVID world. Do you feel practicing the pause is part of a transformational leadership?
Garner? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think there is a delicate balance between practice and pause. The pause is a time to reflect and modify and grow and develop, because leaders should always be in the state of developing, and pause is directly aligned with development. Excellent question.
Wonderful. I'm going to have to keep this going along, guys. We are over, and I don't want to cut anyone when they get the recognition award. So you do have a moment to say your thoughts.
Good. I just want to, what I see from what we're all saying here is, as leaders, we have a circle. That's our container. That's our circle of trust that we build for our people. And then within that circle, you have a triangle of presence, purpose, and
Passion.
passion, right? So it's tridimensional.
Yeah.
And then within that circle and triangle is transformation. It's a natural consequence of that.
Thank you.
Spot on, thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
3 words,
Quicker.
3 words,
Let me even
5
say
words.
it even quicker in 3 words. How you train a leader, you undo with a smile and a laugh. Dao, you help those around you. Do, you serve. Undao do. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give them a round of applause, guys. Panel discussion. This can go on for a while. There's